The Choose Your Legend 6 units have been released for a while now, and boy are they something else. Additionally, the weapon refines for the Choose Your Legends 4 units has breathed new life for many of them. Choose Your Legends units, also known as Brave units, are some of the most awaited units each year and is one of the most unique aspects of Fire Emblem Heroes, where the fans are able to vote for their favorite units to get a special ult. As of now, there are 24 Brave heroes, so let's go over them. I'm going to go over their stats, weapons, unique skills, base kits, fodder, possible non-base kit builds, refines, art, and anything else I could think of. Also, disclaimer, this is just my opinion, which is based off my experience of the game. I'm not a living encyclopedia of the game, and I'm definitely not on top of the meta all the time, so I'm bound to make some mistakes, so please let me know if I did, and leave it in the comments if you want to. Anyways, enough of that. Let's start with... Brave Ike is an Axe Infantry unit. He received 33,871 votes in Choose Your Legends 1, the most in the men's division and the third most overall. Keep in mind this was back when the votes were split between games. If you combine the votes of Ike from Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn, it would add up to 51,555, the most votes in CYL 1. He focuses mostly on attack and defense with okay-ish speed and resistance. His stats I have up here are his original stats without his resplendent stat bonuses. With his resplendent stats, just add 2 to each stat. His weapon Irvon gives him special cooldown count -1 and reduces the second attack he receives by 80%. Considering the fact that he's kinda slow, it's pretty likely he will get doubled in battle. His unique B skill, Bayork's Blessing, neutralizes his foe's stat bonuses if they are a flying or cavalry unit. Yeah, it's not super good in this day and age, but at the time, Reinhard was a menace, so this, along with Irvan's effect, helped him with that matchup. He introduced the breath skills to the game, in this case, Steady Breath, which gives him +4 defense and special cooldown ramping if the foe initiates combat. With his base kit, Brave Ike did alright. The combination of Steady Breath and Slaying in his weapon allowed him to trigger Ether a lot easier than his original counterpart. However, there are no way for him to make a follow-up attack due to his slow speed. That's why people usually swap Bayork's Blessing with Quick Riposte back when the Quick Riposte seal wasn't a thing. I've also seen Distant Counter on him a lot more than Steady Breath, allowing him to excel in enemy phase. So Brave Ike was a pretty good tank for a while, but even with the addition of the Quick Riposte seal, over time, good old power creep phased him out. Eventually, he and the rest of the Choose Your Legends 1 units got refined. His refine keeps special cooldown count -1 and adds Force Desperation onto his foes. It also reduces the first attack by 40% and the second attack by 80%. Brave Ike's refine helped him tank a lot better now. It didn't even matter that his resistance wasn't all that high, he was going to reduce the damage anyway. And due to the desperation he gives his foes, the slaying in his weapon, and support from a certain other Choose Your Legends 1 unit, he could ramp into an Ether on his first counterattack, which is when you would normally want Ether to proc. After his refine, Brave Ike became the best Omni-Tank in the game for a while. However, many new skills were added to the game that gave him a lot of trouble. Specials like Deadeye and Lethality weakened his ability to tank, as well as with more units getting no follow-up in their kits or weapons. Brave Ike had a lot of issues trying to double since his main way of getting doubles is through Quick Riposte. Additionally, Fatal Smoke nullifies any of his healing, again making it harder for him to take a lot of damage. These additions have caused Brave Ike to phase out of the top echelons of the meta, but all in all, he's still a great tank. His fodder these days is not great. His only rare skill is Steady Breath, which isn't super optimal in the A slot these days since it's now a seal. So yeah, best to merge any copies up rather than save them for fodder, at least in my opinion. His original art is fantastic. He's drawn by Kita Senri and it looks great. Ike in Grail's outfit is pretty awesome. His Resplendent outfit is also really cool, though I'm not sure if the Nithavalir outfit fits him. I give Ike 4 stars. Despite his place in the meta nowadays, he's been a great Omni-Tank for a long time. Brave Lyn is up next. She is a colorless bow cavalry unit. She received 49,917 votes, the most in the women's division, and on paper is the most a single character got in Choose Your Legends 1, when you don't factor in the combined votes Ike got. She focuses mainly on attack and speed with decent resistance and low defense. Her weapon is the Bow of the Swift Wind, Mulagir, which nullifies her enemy's stat bonuses if they are a magic user. This effect, along with her decent resistance, made her matchups against mages a lot better. Her unique B skill, Sakei's Blessing, prevents her foes' counterattacks if they use swords, lances, and axes. This helps protect her from receiving physical attacks when she initiates, though this doesn't include bows or daggers. Later on, when beast units were introduced, this would be another weapon type she wouldn't have protection against. Back when Brave Lyn was first released, she was undeniably the best brave unit of the 4 and one of the best units in the game overall. She, alongside Reinhardt, made up the very scary horse emblem meta in Arena. Give her a brave bow and she was basically the physical damage dealing Reinhardt. Over time, Brave Lyn would start to fall off the meta as more and more tanking units were released. However, Sakei's Blessing still gave her a niche of avoiding most physical counterattacks without using Fire Sweep Bow. Eventually, she was given a Weapon Refine. Moligear now nullifies the bonuses of not just the magic units, but also bow, dagger, and staff units, making her matchups against all ranged units pretty good. Additionally, if she is faster than her foe, she gains +4 to all stats in combat. Yeah, it's a pretty tame refine. I guess the devs were afraid of the return of Brave Lyn at the forefront of the meta, but they were playing it way too safe compared to the refines of the other Choose Your Legends 1 units. I've seen a lot of Brave Lyns not even bother using the weapon refine and instead using other inheritable weapons like Fire Sweep Bow or Spendthrift Bow. But if that were the case, it may be better to use a free-to-play bow cavalry unit instead like Bridal Luis, Halloween Rolf, and Summer Leone. At least she still has Sakei's Blessing to stay unique. Her fodder includes Swift Sparrow 2 and Attack Smoke 3. These skills were pretty rare in the early days, but with the addition of Kaze and Nesala, those skills became a lot easier to acquire and thus she became less valuable as fodder. I prefer to merge her up whenever I pull her unexpectedly. Her art is awesome. She's drawn by Yamada Kotaro, and I believe she's in the clothes of the Lorca chieftain, which her father was. It's a bit too similar to her normal attire. I wish they added a bit more to it, but it's still really nice. I give her 3 stars. While she may be extremely underwhelming nowadays, the OGs still have nightmares of facing her in Arena of ages past. Brave Roy is the runner-up in the men's division. He is a sword cavalry unit. He received 28,982 votes, the second most in the men's division and the 5th most overall. He's got high-ish attack and speed and mediocre defense and resistance. His weapon Blazing Durandal essentially gives him Heavy Blade 3. This helps him trigger his specials a lot easier, such as Gale Force. If he's able to get 2 hits and receive 1 hit, he's able to trigger it. Not a bad Gale Force user, but over time, with the addition of new units with higher attack, he had more trouble reaching that benchmark. His weapon refine helped him out a lot. It now gives him special cooldown ramping and guard if he initiates combat without a stat check. Additionally, he gets the steady impact effect, which gives him +7 speed and +10 defense if he initiates combat, along with denying his opponent's follow-up attack. This refine made him the premier Gale Force unit in the game. The steady impact effect helped out his survivability a lot, ensuring he would activate Gale Force. However, there was a catch. OG Eliwood was also given this refine since he was given access to Blazing Durandal through weapon evolution, and for most people, OG Eliwood was the better option. He's a lot easier to merge up since he's in the 3 and 4 star summoning pool, and down the line, he would get a Resplendent outfit that increased all his stats by 2. If you compare Brave Roy with OG Eliwood with Resplendent stats, he has 3 less HP, 1 less attack, 2 more speed, 2 more defense, and 10 less resistance. Add in the fact that most people can +10 Eliwood easily, Brave Roy is the less optimal choice for most people. However, if you like Brave Roy more and don't mind spending the orbs, he is by no means a bad unit. His fodder isn't very impressive, Steady Blow 2 is not that good, and Desperation 3 can be acquired by 4-star Shauna. He does have Gale Force, so if you want to save some feathers and avoid promoting a Cordelia, he can be an option. His art is amazing. He's drawn by Wada Sachiko, and he's donning his father's clothes, which looks good on him. I particularly like his special art, which has a lot of flames flying everywhere. Really awesome. I give him 3 stars. Weapon evolution caused him to be overshadowed by his father, but that doesn't take away from the fact that he's still a great unit. Legendary Lucina is the runner-up in the female division. She is a lance infantry unit. She received 42,875 votes, the second most in the women's division and the second most overall when not counting Ike's combined votes. She's got good attack and speed, okay defense, and low resistance. Her weapon Gear Skullgul grants her allies +3 to attack and speed in combat if they deal physical-based damage. It's mainly a supportive weapon that doesn't really benefit herself much. The effect is a bit basic, but it's pretty useful. Over time, her supporting capabilities became overshadowed by newer units, so they gave her a weapon refine. Gear Skullgul gains dragon effectiveness and also gives +3 to all stats to her physical damage dealing allies in battle. Additionally, for those allies, they gain cooldown ramping per attack if the enemy initiated combat against them. This promoted Brave Lucina as one of the best supporting units in the game. Giving what is essentially the breath effect to her allies is extremely powerful, and since she can give that effect to not only infantry and armor units, but also flying and cavalry units who can't inherit breath effects, she's every enemy face unit's best friend. Well, dragons, tome, and staff users are going to have to look elsewhere. The dragon effectiveness helps her in combat in the few instances where she may have to fight. Her fodder is pretty meh. Sturdy Blow 2 and Drive Speed 2 were pretty rare in the early days of the game, but eventually you could easily acquire Sturdy Blow 2 from 5-star Athena or 5-star Tanith, and Drive Speed 2 from 4-star Tail 2. She does have Ether, so you could save some feathers by foddering her instead of a 5-star Crom. I guess this also applies to Sturdy Blow 2 as well. Her art is really great. Drawn by Kozaki Yusuke, she's in her Great Lord class, which I always liked a lot more than her Lord class outfit. Very nice. I give her 4 stars. A fantastic support unit, at least for physical damage dealing allies. Starting off Choose Your Legends 2 is Brave Hector. He is a Lance Armor unit. He received 38,527 votes, the most in the men's division and the most overall in Choose Your Legends 2. He's built like most Hectors in the game, focusing mostly on attack and defense, having okay resistance and low speed. His weapon is the Blizzard Spear Malted. I guess Ilya let him borrow it? It gives him cooldown count -1 along with essentially the quick riposte effect if he's got 50% or more HP. Pretty good for the enemy phase. A bit basic, but it's effective. He has a unique A skill called Ostian Counter, which is essentially an improved distant counter that gives him +4 attack and defense if his foe initiates. Again, very simple but very nice. On release, Brave Hector was a pretty good mixed phase armor unit, especially since he came with Bold Fighter, but due to the passage of time and the release of strong green units, he started to struggle a lot. Boy, did that change with his refine. It retains cooldown count -1 and his guaranteed follow-up attack, though now if he has 25% more HP instead of 50%. It also now allows him to neutralize his armor weakness, and it neutralizes his penalties if he has 25% or more HP. Additionally, if either his foe initiated combat or if they have 100% HP at the start of combat, he inflicts -6 attack and defense in battle, and prevents his foe's follow-up attack. So it looks like the devs tried to shove as many effects as they could, and Hector really appreciated it. He became the best blue armor unit overnight and arguably the best blue unit in the game. Getting a follow-up attack from his weapon allows him to use Special Fighter, which gives him special ramping and guard, which makes him harder to defeat and a whole lot stronger. This sounds amazing, doesn't it? But hold your horses because Brave Hector's crazy redemption continues with the addition of save skills. Now Hector can focus purely on close or ranged combat. Most people seem to give him far save since he already has Ostian Counter. It seems like no matter which game mode you brought him in, he was going to do well. But wait, it didn't stop there. If you thought Brave Hector was bulky already, he became absolutely untouchable with the addition of Hardy Fighter. If you give him a deflect skill, he's one of the most unkillable units in the game's history. Basically, whenever a new broken armor skill is added, Brave Hector will always be there to utilize it at the highest level. It's one of the best investments you can make. If, however, you don't want to use him or have enough merges, he can provide Bold Fighter 3 and even Res Wave 3, which in these days isn't really that good. His art is pretty good. He's drawn by Kita Senri, and he's in the armor of his older brother Uther, which is very cool, though a little sad. It's my second favorite Hector art in the game behind his legendary alt. I give him 5 stars. You know you're a good unit when every armor unit released after you refine is compared to you. Brave Celica is the winner of the women's division. She is a sword infantry unit. With 36,302 votes, Celica got the most votes in the women's division, and, if not factoring Marth's combined votes, the second most overall in Choose Your Legends 2. She's really fast with okay attack and mediocre defense and resistance. Celica is borrowing Alm's Royal Sword, which gives her special cooldown ramping for each of her attacks if she's within 2 spaces of an ally. Pretty good. Very similar to Brave Roy's weapon, which is probably why they gave her Gale Force. However, it can be awkward at times. Gale Force units tend to go off on their own away from their allies, but if Celica isn't near her allies, she can't get her cooldown ramping. She has a unique B skill, Double Lion, which gives her brave attacks if she has 100% HP. However, after combat, she deals 1 damage to herself, effectively disabling the skill afterwards. It was important to always keep Celica healthy if you wanted to keep getting her brave hits, which can be annoying to maintain. Celica was pretty alright on release, but could be finicky to use. If she defeats her foe with brave hits, even with special ramping, she's unable to proc Gale Force if she doesn't receive a hit. Even if she did proc Gale Force, the recoil damage from Double Lion meant she wasn't going to get her brave hits again without some healing. Her refine made things a whole lot easier for her. Royal Sword now has special ramping if she either initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally. Much easier to fulfill. Additionally, if she has 25% or more HP, she gets +4 to all stats in battle, and then afterwards, she gets cooldown count -1 and restores 7 HP. Now she can proc Gale Force a lot more easily, not having to rely on being near allies. She even does well with this encounter and dodge-based damage reduction builds. Whether it's a player phase or enemy phase build, Celica will excel. Her fodder is okay. She has Death Blow 4 and Gale Force, both of which are easy to pass down in one go. However, these days, you could do a lot better than Death Blow 4. Her art is great. She's drawn by Hidari, the character designer of Echo's Shadows of Valentia, and she's donning her armor from Gaiden. Her old school drip in the modern art style is absolutely eye candy. I give her 4 stars. Overall, a pretty flexible sword infantry unit. Brave Ephraim is the runner-up in the men's division. He is an axe armor unit. He received 31,027 votes, the second most in the men's division and third most overall if you don't combine Marth's votes from all his games. He focuses on attack and defense and has mediocre speed and resistance. He wields the Black Axe of Grotto, Garm, which gives him a guaranteed follow-up attack if he has a bonus. This is relatively easy to fulfill as he comes with Armor March 3. His weapon and base kit made him a pretty good mixed phase armor unit. However, as usual, he faded from the public eye with the addition of stronger units, so he gotta refine. Garm now gives him a follow-up attack and prevents his foes from preventing his follow-up attack if Ephraim has a bonus. Additionally, if he has 25% or more HP, he gets +5 to all stats in combat and heals 7 HP per attack, even if he does 0 damage. Extra stats, follow-up attack, and healing helped out Ephraim a ton. He also benefited from the addition of save skills, allowing him to specialize. Personally, I have mine as a melee specialist by giving him a near save skill, and he performs pretty well. He's not nearly as broken as Brave Hector, but he's definitely very good and will only get better with the addition of new armor-only skills. If you would like to fodder him instead, he can offer Close Defense 3, Special Fighter 3, and Armor March 3. Close Defense 3 can be acquired from 5-star Joshua or 4-star New Year's Kiza, so it's not all that rare. Armor March 3 isn't that good anymore, as most armor units don't need to go sprinting across the map like they used to, instead wanting a save skill. Special Fighter 3 is pretty good for armor units who can get follow-up attacks through other means. His art is really awesome. He's drawn by Wada Sachiko and he's in the armor of his father, which I think looks really good on him, though the green color clashes a bit with his hair color. I give Ephraim 4 stars, a great green armor unit worthy of the former king of Renee. The runner-up in the women's division is Brave Veronica. She is a staff cavalry unit. She received 29,206 votes, the second most in the women's division and the fourth most overall if you don't combine votes for Marth. She has pretty high speed for a staff unit, okay attack, and low defense and resistance. She wields, and I know I'm going to butcher the name, Hulithskialf, which prevents her foes from counterattacking and inflicts -4 to all stats to her foe and enemies within 2 spaces of them, and gives +4 to all stats to herself and allies within 2 spaces of her. This may seem basic on paper, but at the time was really powerful. Horse Emblem was in full swing at the time and she fit right in. With a decent offensive stat line and the Wrathful and Dazzling combo, she was the most powerful CYL2 unit for a while. It was hard to tank her hits and Null Sea Disrupt wouldn't be released for another year, so you wouldn't even be able to hit her back. Definitely very annoying to deal with. Down the line, she became the first staff unit in the game to receive a refine that wasn't a Wrathful or Dazzling refine. It retains the same effect and now gives allies within 3 spaces +3 attack and speed and combat, and inflicts -3 defense and resistance on foes within 3 spaces of her in combat. Just like with Brave Lyn, the devs were careful from giving her too much, causing her refine to be the weakest of the Choose Your Legends 2 refines. Still, it's definitely not bad and helps out both her and her allies. As fodder, she can pass down Wind, Fire, Balm Plus, Wrathful Staff 3, and Close Guard 3. Windfire Balm Plus is pretty rare, as only Veronica and young La Rochelle have it, though I personally don't think it's all that good. Close Guard 3 is in the 3 and 4 star pool, as well as the Grail pool, so it's not that rare. Wrathful Staff 3 is her best skill to pass down, as it can turn any staff unit into essentially a colorless tome unit. As for art, it's good, though her clothes look a little too big on her. I don't know, maybe it's supposed to look that way, but they do look a little baggy. I do in particular like her special art with the multicolored glittering. I give Veronica 4 stars. She's no longer the menace she used to be, but is still a strong magical threat. Brave Alm is a winner of the men's division. He follows in Brave Celica's footsteps as a sword infantry unit. He received 62,216 votes, the most in the men's division and the most overall in Choose Your Legends 3. He has high attack and defense, good but not great speed, and low resistance. He wields the Draco Falchion, which gives him dragon effectiveness and +5 to all stats in combat. A bit underwhelming, but since he's a first place winner, let's see what else he got. He has a unique A skill, Send Scale, which increases the damage he deals by 25% of his attack, but then deals 7 recoil damage after every round. So Alm is going all out in dealing damage, and he does a decent job at it, but even on release, he was a bit underwhelming. He wasn't designed for prolonged fights, and if he took too many counterattacks and recoil damage, he would fall easily. Luckily, his refine shot him into prominence. He retains his dragon effectiveness and now gains +1 extra movement along with +5 to all stats in combat if he either initiates combat or is solo. Additionally, if he has 25% or more HP, he gets another +5 to all stats in combat, and if he fights a physical damage dealing foe and he's faster than them, he neutralizes effects that prevent his follow-up attack and prevents his foe from counterattacking. In summary, he can get +10 to all stats in combat, 1 extra move, and wind sweep that doesn't prevent his own follow-up attack. Alm goes all in the player phase, able to bring down extremely tanky foes while avoiding damage himself. He essentially becomes a cavalry unit who retains the benefits of infantry units, like moving through trenches. Some people continue to use Send Scale, but since Alm's speed isn't super high, even with the bonuses from his refine, others usually swap it out with an attack and speed boosting A skill. Although he's not quite as broken as Brave Hector, he's now one of the best physical red threats in the game, even a year after his refine. As for his fodder, it's okay. He can pass down Chill Defense 3 and Threaten Attack Speed 3, neither of which are very good these days. I guess if you don't have a menace skill, Threaten Attack Speed 3 is an okay budget option. As for art, it's really nice. Drawn by Hidari, his outfit is a mix of his Gaiden outfit and the cape of the Regalian Emperor, and it looks really nice. His special art in particular looks like he's wielding a lightsaber, which is just amazing. Also, can't forget to mention his armor guarding his regal parts. Gotta love that. I give Alm 4 stars. He's definitely a 5-star unit nowadays, but we can't forget his early days, which were a bit of a struggle. Brave Micaiah, the winner of the women's division, is up next. She takes after the Goddess of Chaos as a green tome flying unit. She received 54,343 votes, the most in the women's division and the second most overall in Choose Your Legends 3. She has good attack and resistance, mediocre speed, and low defense. Her weapon, Light of Dawn, grants her effectiveness against armor and cavalry units, a Micaiah staple. She is also able to convert penalties on her opponent into bonuses in combat. Basically, she gets stronger the weaker her opponent is. Helping her out with spreading penalties is her unique B skill, Yune's Whispers, which inflicts -6 attack and speed penalties on foes with less than or equal to -3 of Micaiah's own resistance, and they are adjacent to another foe. I would have preferred if they swapped out inflicting a speed penalty with a resistance penalty, but it's still nice. She also came with Micaiah's unique assist skill, Sacrifice, which lets her convert her target's penalties into bonuses and heal them at the expense of her own HP. I think most people swap this out with a positional skill, but it's great to have options. Brave Micaiah was a pretty good green flying nuke on release, but as with many other flying ranged units, she had trouble finding a niche as more and more units became specialists rather than generalists. She didn't hit as hard as infantry units, wasn't as tanky as armor units, and not as mobile as cavalry units. She also had no way of getting a guaranteed follow-up attack on her own, so she really needed to make that first attack count. IS released a refine to help her out. Her weapon retains its original effect and now gives her +4 to all stats in combat if her foe has either 75% or more HP or has a penalty. Additionally, if Micaiah initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally, she gets +6 attack and resistance and makes a guaranteed follow-up attack. Extra stats and a follow-up attack help Micaiah out a lot, though I wouldn't call this refine over the top or anything. Still, now she's a pretty good nuke that doesn't have to rely on her first attack. I personally like to stack defense on her so she can tank physical counterattacks. Her fodder is Attack Resistance Bond 4, which is pretty good on res tanks, and Ground Orders 3, an okay positional-based assisting skill. Overall, her fodder is kind of just okay. Her art is really cool and unique. She's drawn by Kita Senri, and she's in her Light Priestess class, her final class in Radiant Dawn. It's really neat to see Yune accompany her in both art and map sprite, sort of like a duo unit. I give Micaiah 4 stars. She's a great green flying nuke. The runner-up in the men's division is Brave Eliwood. He is a Lance Cavalry unit. He received 44,687 votes, the second most in the men's division and the fourth most overall in Choose Your Legends 3. He has decent attack, speed, and defense and really low resistance. His weapon is Nini's Ice Lance, which grants him dragon and beast effectiveness and +4 to all stats in combat if he initiates battle. Pretty simple, but hey, who doesn't like extra stats? Perhaps it was a little too simple because, like with the other Choose Your Legends 3 units, he faded from the meta relatively quickly. His refine helped breathe new life into him. He retains his dragon and beast effectiveness and now gains not 4, but +5 to all stats in combat, and neutralizes effects that prevent his follow-up attacks if he either initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally. Additionally, he gains another +5 to all stats if he initiates combat, and speed-based damage reduction. So in summary, he gains +10 to all stats in combat, neutralizes effects that prevent his follow-up attack, and dodge. This makes Eliwood a great player phase unit, excelling especially in fighting dragons and beasts. I personally think giving him Search Sparrow is optimal, as it allows him to heal up, which, when combined with the dodge in his weapon, makes him pretty hard to face and take out. Overall, not super broken, yet very powerful and easy to use. His fodder is really good. He can give Swift Sparrow 3, Attack Speed Ruse 3, Speed Opening 3, and Rally Attack Defense Plus. I'm definitely guilty of foddering a couple of Brave Elliwoods, specifically for Swift Sparrow 3. His art is fantastic. Drawn by Wada Sachiko, he's wearing the ceremonial clothes for his ascension as a Marquess of Foray, and it looks really good on him. I especially like his special art, which has a lot of blue frost emanating from his lance. I give him 4 stars. A strong player phase Lance Cav indeed. Brave Camilla is up next. She is a staff flying unit. She received 54,343 votes, the second most in the women's division and the third most overall in Choose Your Legends 3. She focuses on attack and speed and has mediocre defense and resistance. Her weapon, Sand Grither, prevents her foes' counterattacks and gives her +3 to attack and speed when she initiates combat. Additionally, she inflicts gravity on her foe and foes within 1 space of them after battle. A pretty strong staff that increases her offensive capabilities while also allowing her to kite her enemies. However, it was a tad bit basic and could use some improvements. Her refine retains its original effect, except now it gives +4 instead of +3 to attack and speed when she initiates. Additionally, at the start of turn, she inflicts -7 defense and resistance penalties on foes within 3 columns or 3 rows of her. Finally, she gains another +6 attack and speed if she initiates combat. Camilla definitely appreciates the extra stats in combat and penalties she inflicts on her foes, but it's still way too tame to shoot her up in the meta. I'm not sure why the devs are always so cautious when refining staff units, but whatever. In any case, Camilla is still a decent unit who can spread penalties and act as a pseudo-colorless mage. Her fodder is not that bad. Attack Speed Push 4 is a great offensive skill, and Wrathful Staff 3 is basically a requirement for offensive staff units. Attack Tactic 3 is in the 3 and 4 star pool, so it's not that rare. Her art is very cool and interesting. She's drawn by Yusuke Kozaki, and she's wearing clothes of the Norian monarch, even though in all routes of fates, she never becomes the Queen of Nor. I guess this could be Camilla from the Birthright route who decides to not abdicate the throne to Leo, but who knows. I give Camilla 3 stars. She's a bit basic at times, but has the offensive power to lead Nor into a new dawn. King Dimitri is a winner of the men's division. He is a Lance Infantry unit. He received 69,448 votes, the most in the men's division and the second most overall in Choose Your Legends 4. He has great attack, speed, and defense, but really bad resistance. His weapon is the Moon Gradivis, which gives him distant counter and cooldown ramping for each of his foes' attacks. A bit simple, especially considering he was released in 2020. Let's see if his unique B skill, Blue Lion Rule, can give him a bigger edge. It gives him defense-based damage reduction and a guaranteed follow-up attack if his foe initiates combat. So, Brave Dimitri strives to be an Omni-tank unit given that he has DC in his weapon. However, he has one big issue that made this extremely difficult, which is his extremely low resistance. Even with the defense-based damage reduction from his weapon, he was likely to go down really easily, even against red mages with whom he has weapon triangle advantage. Dimitri fell out of the meta extremely quickly when compared to the other Choose Your Legends 4 units. He ended up becoming a melee specialist with far safe support, and he did this pretty well. However, there were better units capable of doing this, particularly near save units. Brave Dimitri desperately needed something, and IS answered with a weapon refine for Moon Gradavis. It retains its original effect and now gives him +5 to all stats in combat, lets him deal damage equal to 20% of his defense, reduces the damage he received by 20% of his defense, inflicts -5 defense on his foe in combat, and neutralizes their bonuses to attack and defense if he's within 3 spaces of an ally. Wow, so they gave Dimitri a lot of really good effects, particularly true damage and flat damage reduction. Now, even when hit by powerful magic attacks, Dimitri is able to reduce the damage by absurd amounts, and what's especially great is that the flat damage reduction is applied after the defense-based damage reduction from Blue Lion rule, so he can reduce the damage all the way to 0. I've seen him even tank a Ninja Corn easily, someone whom he usually fell to very quickly. In my opinion, this is the most 0 to hero case we've ever seen for a Brave hero. Now Dimitri is able to be the Omni-Tank he was meant to be since his debut. If you want to fodder him instead, he's able to pass down Attack-Defense Unity and Joint Hone Attack, both of which are very easy to pass down at once. Attack-Defense Unity in particular is really great on defense-oriented units. As for Joint Hone Attack, it's okay, but there's better C skills. At least it's useful for scoring in arena. For his art, I really like it. He's drawn by Lack, and even though their art is a little hit or miss at times for me, they did a really great job here. He's in his Great Lord class, which I didn't really like the look of in 3 Houses, but looks really awesome in Heroes. I give Dimitri 4 stars. He's a 5-star unit now, but we can't forget what he had to go through to get to where he is now. Emperor Edelgard is up next. She is an Axe Armor unit. She received 74,617 votes, the most in the women's division and the most overall in Choose Your Legends 4. She's also the most voted single character in Choose Your Legends history. She has very good attack and defense, good resistance, and really low speed. Her weapon is the Flower Hot Declare, which gives her special cooldown count -1, and if she has 25% or more of her HP, she gets +1 movement and the Guidance Warping effect at the start of turn. Additionally, if her HP is 25% or more, she inflicts -6 attack and defense on her foe in combat. These effects help Edelgard to essentially be a pseudo-infantry unit in terms of mobility. In fact, she has many advantages over other movement types. She can pass through trenches, jump over walls and other impassable terrain, and she sprints through forest tiles easily. In many ways, you'll probably forget she is an armor unit, despite having all the armor benefits and drawbacks. Edelgard also has a unique B skill, Black Eagle Rule. If she has 25% or more HP, it gives her a guaranteed follow-up attack and reduces the damage from her foe's follow-up attack by 80% if the foe initiates combat. 80% damage reduction is pretty huge, and in many cases, it's better to have the damage reduction in the second hit, since that's when the enemy is more likely to trigger their special. Brave Edelgard aged the best out of the Choose Your Legends 4 lot, especially with the release of save skills. She performed well as both a near and far savior, though the release of Duochrome pushed her more towards near save. Additionally, with the release of Stout Axe from Atlas, she became a pseudo-brave Ike by having damage reduction in both the first and second hit. Definitely a very flexible unit. Despite how powerful she still was, Edelgard eventually got a refine for Flower Hot Declare. It retains its original effect and now gives Edelgard bonuses to attack, defense, and resistance equal to the number of spaces moved by the unit who initiates combat times 2 plus 3 for a max of 9, inflicts -6 to attack and defense on the foe during combat, and restores 7 HP per attack if she's within 3 spaces of an ally. None of these effects are super game-breaking, but considering the fact that Edelgard still performs really well without her refine, it's pretty generous when compared to what happened to Brave Lyn. Brave Edelgard essentially does what she did before, but better. I personally use her as a near save unit, and in many ways, she's pretty indestructible. However, she's still susceptible to armor effectiveness and damage reduction nullification effects, but other than that, she performs pretty well. For fodder, she can give out Distant Ward and Joint Drive Res, none of which are all that good, but it's not the worst fodder. Distant Ward is particularly good against mages, but does nothing against bows or daggers, which is pretty rough. Joint Drive Res is okay, but the offensive Joint Drive skills are much better. Her art is pretty good. She's drawn by Kaboon, and she's in her Emperor class from 3 Houses. It's pretty good, and I think it's neat that her hair gets undone in her damaged art. I give her 5 stars. A very easy unit to use who's been strong for most of her time in the game. Next up is King Claude. He is a colorless bow flying unit. He received 59,751 votes, the second most in the men's division and the third most overall in Choose Your Legends 4. He has great attack and speed and okay-ish defense and resistance. His weapon is the Wind Parthia, which gives him special cooldown count -1 and flyer effectiveness. It also gives him +5 to all stats in combat if he initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally, and restores 50% of his max HP when his special triggers. At the time of his release, Claude was a very good vantage sweeper. The healing from his weapon allowed him to tank many units. Just give him a bunch of support and a damage dealing special and he'll mow down teams. However, everything changed when IS released Duo Lif, who had Fatal Smoke which disabled the healing in his weapon. This was particularly bad because Claude really relied on that healing, so when it was taken away, he could be taken down pretty easily as his bulk isn't fantastic. Claude was quickly phased out of the meta, and while he was still pretty good, Fatal Smoke really destroyed his viability. His weapon Refined sought to fix this issue. The Refined Wind Parthia retains its original effect and now ignores 60% of deep wounds. Additionally, if Claude has 25% or more HP, he gets plus 5 to all stats in combat, neutralizes effects that prevent his follow-up attacks, null guard, and if he has a special, he reduces the damage from the first attack he receives by 30%. So essentially, Claude can get plus 10 to all stats, partial null follow-up, null guard, some damage reduction, and guaranteed healing. Fatal Smoke wasn't as popular as it once was by the time Claude got this refined, but now he really doesn't need to worry about it as much. It's not a super game-breaking refine, but it helps him become a great vantage unit once again. I've seen some Claudes use Speed Preempt 3 and he uses it pretty well. Give him any offensive flyer skills and he'll make great use of them. For fodder, he can pass down Fury 4, Chill Speed Defense 2, and Attack Speed Rain 3. I'm personally not the biggest fan of Fury 4, but it's pretty easy to pass down along with either Chill Speed Defense 2 or Attack Speed Rain 3. I think most offensive units would rather use Speed Defense Rain 3 instead, but Attack Speed Rain isn't a bad option either. As for his art, I think it's the best Claude art in the game. He's drawn by Wada Sachiko and he's in his Barbarossa class, which I always liked a lot better than his Wyvern Master outfit. I particularly like his special art, which has these blue swirls coming from his bow. I give Claude 4 stars. Fatal Smoke tried to take him out, but the schemer is now back stronger than ever. Joining Claude from the Golden Deer House is Brave Lysithia. She is a Red Tome infantry unit. She received 42,462 votes, the second most in the women's division and the 5th most overall in Choose Your Legends 4. She's got a glass cannon stat line, focusing on attack and speed and having low defense and resistance. Her weapon is Dark Spike's Tau, which gives her cavalry effectiveness and gives her plus 6 attack and speed in combat if her foe has 75% or more HP. Additionally, if she has less than full HP and initiates combat, she gets a guaranteed follow-up attack before her foe can counterattack, a pretty strong effect which kinda gives her brave attacks, though she does have some issues. For one, she needs some setup if she wants brave attacks, as she cannot be at full HP. Someone like Winter Bernadetta can help deal 1 damage to her, but not everyone has a copy of her, so the consistent way to do it would be for her to use an assist skill to manipulate her HP. However, this can be clunky and unreliable in many scenarios. Additionally, she doesn't have any way to deal with enemies with damage reduction. I guess this goes for all offensive mages, but damage reduction really hampers her ability to take out units in 1 round. Let's see what her Refine has in store for her. It retains the same effect and now gives her special cooldown count -1, along with deals 1 damage to herself at the start of turn and gives her the self-guidance effect similar to Brave Edelgard. Additionally, if she either initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally, she gets plus 6 attack and speed during combat, and special cooldown charge +1 from her attacks. The self-recoil damage is really useful to enable the brave attacks, and the self-guidance makes her really similar to legendary female Byleth. The addition of special cooldown count -1 and cooldown ramping enables her to use 3 cooldown specials really well. For my Brave Lysithia, I replaced Moonbow with Luna and it really helps out with her damage output. Now, she's a very competent offensive red nuke similar to her pre-timeskip counterpart. In terms of fodder, she offers attack speed push 4, lull speed res 3, and hone speed 4. Attack speed push 4 and lull speed 3 are really good for offensive mages, while hone speed 4 is only really useful for arena scoring. For her art, it looks pretty good. She's drawn by Amagaitaro and she's in the Grammary class. It's nice and I particularly like her hat, which is really cute. I give her 4 stars. A solid red offensive mage. Taking over Choose Your Legends 5 by storm is Brave Gatekeeper, or I guess just the Gatekeeper. I wonder what his real name is. He's a Green Tome infantry unit. He received 72,267 votes, the most in the men's division and the most overall in Choose Your Legends 5. He primarily focuses on attack, defense, and resistance and has extremely low speed. His weapon, Charging Horn, gives +5 attack and speed in combat to allies within 3 rows or 3 columns of him. Gatekeeper also gets effects depending on the number of allies within 3 rows or 3 columns of him. If 1 or more, he inflicts -X attack and resistance on his opponent during battle. where X is 2 times the number of allies within 3 rows or 3 columns of him, with a max of 6. If 3 or more, he denies his foe's follow-up attack. His weapon both supports his allies and empowers him based on the allies around him. A very collaborative weapon. He has a unique B skill, Detailed Report, which is essentially obstruct on steroids with warp bubble included. Basically, Gatekeeper is the best gatekeeper in the game. It's definitely very unique, able to stop Gale Force teams and Ether raids from jumping around with Wings of Mercy. While definitely an interesting concept for a unit, it didn't really age that well. Gatekeeper's fighting capabilities are really lacking. I know he's supposed to be more of a tank who stops people from passing him, but I find that he's not really all that tanky either. Because he's so slow and has no way of denying follow-up attacks, he can be taken out relatively easily. And then who's gonna watch the gates? Still, not all hope is lost, as he will most likely get a refine next year. His fodder is really freaking good. He can pass down Close Reversal, a defense upgrade to Close Counter, Joint Drive Defense, and Harsh Command Plus, all of which can be passed down at once with extreme ease. I've definitely been pity broken by Gatekeeper a lot and foddered a decent number of him. I hope I don't end up regretting it. His art is really unique. He's got the front door of Garrick Mock Monastery behind him in his neutral art, along with what I believe to be a Hresvelgian Whisker, Blathid Rex, and Regan Tabby beside him. You can see them in his attack art, and in his special art, you can see other NPC characters behind him. Very cool references, though I can't say I'm the biggest fan of Yamada Akihiro's work. Just not my cup of tea. I give Gatekeeper 3 stars. He's struggling a bit right now, but give him a year and I'm sure Gatekeeper will have something to report. The Golden Deer hype train continues with brave Marianne. She is a colorless tome infantry unit. She received 33,555 votes, the most in the women's division and the 4th most overall in Choose Your Legends 5. Her stats focus on attack, speed, and resistance with really low defense. Her weapon is the Phantasm Tome, which inflicts -6 to her opponent's speed and resistance and neutralizes their bonuses to speed and resistance if her foe has 50% or more HP at the start of combat. Additionally, if Marianne initiates combat, she reduces the damage from their foe's first attack by 70%. This helps out immensely when she faces a physical damage dealing foe. She is among the first Brave units to receive a unique special rather than a unique skill. Her unique special is Requiem Dance. Once the special becomes ready, after combat, Marianne will refresh her ally with the highest HP within 2 spaces. However, the refresh unit will have their movement restricted to 1. It's quite a unique effect. The only other units with a similar effect are the duo and harmonic units with a refresh effect like Plegian Dorothea and New Year Peony. Something to note is this effect is able to bypass isolation, which normal dancer units are unable to overcome. Marianne is definitely a very unique unit and is really good in Gale Force teams. However, Gale Force dancers have the benefit that they don't limit the refreshed unit's movement to 1. Limiting the positioning of Gale Force teams is a pretty big restriction to play around. Another issue Marianne has is the fact that her special doesn't increase her damage. Back during her release, this wasn't as big of a deal since her offenses were pretty good, but as more and more bulky units get released, Marianne finds that she has trouble taking down foes in the meta, especially savior units. Nevertheless, Marianne is a very fun unit to use, particularly when you build a team around her. As fodder, Marianne has attack speed unity, null follow-up 3, and times pulse 3. You can pass down attack speed unity in either null follow-up 3 or times pulse 3 in one go, which is extremely good. She's one of the best units in the game in terms of fodder. I won't lie, I foddered a decent number of brave Mariannes. I can't help it, her fodder is that good. Her art is really great. She's drawn by Kusakihara Toshiyuki in her dancer class. I guess it's semi-canon that Marianne is a dancer chosen from the Golden Deer House, given both her alt and a certain Fire Emblem cipher card. I particularly like her special art, though due to the nature of her special, you don't get to see it too often. I'm not a big fan of the face she's making in her injured art. It looks a little off. I give her 4 stars, a very fun and unique unit. The OG Lord himself is up next. Brave Marth would have been added earlier if votes were combined, but whatever. He is a sword infantry unit. He received 46,699 votes, the second most in the men's division and the second most overall in Choose Your Legends 5. He's really fast with high attack, good defense, and okay resistance. He wields the Genesis Falchion, which gives him cooldown count -1, dragon effectiveness, and +5 to all stats if he initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally. Additionally, he gains the following effects depending on the total bonuses his 3 allies with the most bonuses have. If it's 10 or more, he gets null follow-up. If it's 25 or more, he gets plus 5 attack in combat and restores 5 HP during every attack, even if he deals no damage. If 60 or more, he gets Vantage. Marth's weapon has a lot of very powerful effects and can be really strong in many matchups. Additionally, he comes with a unique, special, Shining Emblem, which gives him plus 6 bonuses to all stats if he's within 2 spaces of an ally, and gives plus 6 to his allies within 2 spaces. When the special triggers, it boosts his damage by 35% of Marth's speed. Then, after the special triggers, he gives plus 6 bonuses to all stats to all his allies. The self-buffing capabilities is pretty useful, and giving bonuses to his allies helps with the stat requirements for Genesis Falchion. Marth is a really solid unit, able to dish out a lot of damage. However, he does have some weaknesses. For one, he's really susceptible to panic, as he will almost always buff himself plus 6 bonuses to all stats. However, if you can find a way to get him null panic, like from Ashura or Legendary Azura, then he'll be fine. Another weakness is that he really wants to be close to his allies. In order for him to get plus 6 bonuses, he needs to be within 2 spaces of an ally. Additionally, if he wants plus 5 to all stats in combat during enemy phase, he needs to be within 2 spaces of an ally. It's not the hardest requirement to fulfill, but it's something that needs to be considered. Since he's able to self-buff himself, he makes good use of bonus doubler 3, though again, it can be susceptible to buff neutralization skills. I also personally give mine Special Spiral 3 so he can spam Shining Emblem hits, a very fun build that I would recommend. His fodder is pretty good. He can pass down Distant Pressure, Spurn 3, and even Tempest 3. I feel like most people don't really care much for Distant Pressure and just go for Distant Counter and Spurn 3. Even Tempest is okay, but may not be worth sacrificing a brave Marth for. His art is good, though not my favorite Marth art. He's drawn by Kira Senri in the garbs of his indirect ancestor Henri. He looks really good and I really like it, but I just don't love it. I can't really explain why. I give Marth 4 stars, a hero worthy of the great hero Henri himself. Brave Erica is up next. She is a Lance Cavalry unit. She received 31,875 votes, the second most in the women's division and the 5th most overall in Choose Your Legends 5. She has fantastic attack and speed and okay-ish defense and resistance. Her weapon is the Binding Regan Leaf, which gives her special cooldown count -1 and effectiveness against armored and cavalry units. Additionally, at the start of combat, if she has 25% or more HP, she gets plus 5 to all stats in combat, reduces the foe's first attack by 30%, and neutralizes effects that prevent her follow-up attack if she initiates combat. An extremely powerful weapon with many powerful offensive effects. She also comes with the unique B skill, Moonlight Bangle, which gives her Canto 2 and Null Guard. Additionally, she deals extra damage equal to X% of the foe's defense when her special triggers. X equals her maximum special cooldown count times 10 plus 20. This does take into account the special cooldown count -1 in her weapon. So for instance, with her default special Luna, she's able to deal 40% of her foe's defense as damage. This makes her an absolutely fantastic tank busting unit. Brave Erica also debuted the Surge A skills. Surge Sparrow gives her plus 7 to attack and speed during combat if she initiates, and if her special triggers, she receives HP based on her maximum special cooldown count, which also takes into account her special cooldown count -1 from her weapon. From Luna, she can restore 30% of her max HP. In many ways, Brave Erica is the complete package. She has extremely great offenses from her high attack and speed, cavalry and armor effectiveness, and extra damage from Moonlight Bangle. She's really resilient due to her 30% damage reduction in her weapon and healing from Surge Sparrow. And she is very mobile with cavalry movement and Canto 2. Because of this, I think most people feel that Erica is the best Choose Your Legends 5 unit. Definitely one of the most threatening player phase units in the game. In terms of fodder, she mainly offers Surge Sparrow and Attack Speed Menace. These two are not that hard to pass down at once, so Erica makes for great fodder. In terms of art, it's really good, but I'm not a big fan of her outfit. She's drawn by Wada Sachiko, and she's in a modified Ephraim's outfit. It does seem a bit unoriginal, but I guess the devs didn't have much else to go off of. In any case, it does look very good, and I particularly like her helmet. I give Erica 5 stars, an extremely powerful offensive nuke. Finally getting his big break is Brave Crom. He is a Lance Cavalry unit. He received 42,134 votes, the most in the men's division and the most overall in Choose Your Legends 6. He has high attack and speed, good defense, especially for a cavalry unit, and low resistance. His weapon, Gear Driffle, has a bunch of effects. It gives him special cooldown count -1 and effectiveness against armor units. Additionally, if he either initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally, he gains plus X to all stats in combat, X being the number of bonuses and penalties on him times 2 plus 5. Reduces damage from the foe's first attack by 40%, and gains special cooldown charge plus 1 per attack. It's worth noting that there is no cap to the stats he could gain from the weapon, so it becomes a fun challenge to see how many bonuses you can give Crom. He comes with the unique assist of Fate Changed, which is essentially the same as To Change Fate, except it gives all the bonuses of the target to Crom. This has great synergy with his weapon and is a great effect in general, as there are a lot of effects he can gain from this, including bonuses from duo and harmonic units. Not only that, it will be aging well as more bonuses are added into the game. This is also not to mention the fact that he gives himself another action after use, which can be very hard to play around when in the AI's hand. All of this makes him a great raid boss type of unit. His player phase is incredibly strong, and he's really fun to play around in multiple game modes. If you want to fodder him, you can get Surge Sparrow, Speed Defense Near Trace 3, and Infantry Speed Tactic. You won't be able to inherit all three at once, but I guess what you could do is get Surge Sparrow, Infantry Speed Tactic, and Speed Defense Near Trace 2, which is essentially Speed Defense Near Trace 3, except it inflicts -2 to speed and defense on the foe in combat rather than -3. In terms of his art, it's really nice. He's drawn by Kozaki Yusuke, and he's in his Great Lord class, which I don't like as much as his Lord outfit, but it's still really cool. His hair also looks a little shorter than normal, so it caught me off guard at first. Also, is it just me, or does he seem really pissed off in his neutral art? I give him 5 stars. A really strong cavalry unit who will only get better with time. Joining Crom from Awakening is brave adult Tiki. This seems very fitting since 2022 is the 10th anniversary of Awakening. She is a green dragon infantry unit. She received 39,705 votes, the most in the women's division and the second most overall in Choose Your Legends 6. She has high attack and resistance, good defense, and low-ish speed. Her weapon is the Remote Breath, which gives her special cooldown count -1 and effectiveness against dragons. Additionally, she gets the following effects if she's within 3 spaces of an ally: +5 to all stats in combat, a guaranteed follow-up attack, -1 special cooldown right before her first attack in combat, and inflict +1 special cooldown count on her foe right before the foe's first attack if her resistance is greater than or equal to +5 of the foe's resistance. Finally, she has the usual adaptive damage that dragon units have. Tiki is really good at ramping into specials, so giving her a 3 cooldown special really works well with her, as she will counter-attack with it. She's also good at denying the specials of her foes, particularly foes who pre-charge their specials. Tiki also has a unique B skill, New Divinity. At the start of combat, if her HP is 25% or more, she inflicts -5 attack and resistance on her opponent, and gets essentially the Dragon Wall effect. Also, if she has 40% or more HP at the start of combat, she denies her foes follow-up attacks. Considering her staggering 41 base resistance, she's going to reduce a lot of damage, though as usual, all the damage reduction nullification effects apply. She also introduces a new line of skills, the Finish skills. With Attack Resistance Finish 4, she gets +7 attack and resistance in combat, and when her special is ready or is triggered before or during combat, she deals +5 extra damage and restores 7 HP per hit. This helps out both her damage output and her survivability. Overall, Tiki is a very solid Omni tank, especially since the release of Distant Counter Dragon Seal. If you want to fodder her instead, she can offer Attack Resistance Finish 4 and Defense Resistance Menace. The Tier 3 finish skills have not yet been released, so if you want to pass down Attack Resistance Finish 4, you can't also pass down Defense Resistance Menace, which is pretty rough. Best to wait before foddering her, in my opinion. Her art is pretty solid. She's drawn by Peneko R, and she's in her young version's clothes, which I think most people consider a bit disappointing. Her clothes look a bit too small on her, but I still think she looks really good. I give her 4 stars. An extremely strong dragon unit who fits right in with the other strong recently released dragons. The first character from Drugdrol to get a Brave Alt is Brave Selith. He is a sword cavalry unit. He received 26,301 votes, the second most in the men's division and the third most overall in Choose Your Legends 6. He's got good attack, speed, and defense and really low resistance. His weapon is the Holy Tide Turfing, which gives him Canto 2 and special cooldown count -1. Additionally, if either he or his foe move to a different space when initiating combat, he gets +5 to all stats in combat and deals extra damage based on the number of spaces moved, times 10% of the foe's defense. Additionally, if Selith would have been taken out and he has 25% or more of his HP, he survives with 1 HP. This weapon is fantastic as it gives him Canto, extra damage, and a miracle-like effect, which makes him really hard to take out. He has a unique C skill, Air to Light, which gives him plus 6 attack and speed bonuses, the null follow-up status, and 1 extra movement. Simple but very powerful. The extra movement is particularly great for the extra stats in his weapon and from his new A skill, Attack Speed Clash 4, which can give attack and speed equal to the number of spaces he or his foe moved plus 6, and if the movement was 2 or more, he neutralizes the penalties to his attack and speed. Keep in mind, this is not actually the number of spaces moved, but the number of spaces away from the starting position. Still, very good for Seliph who can consistently move up to 4 spaces. Personally, I find Seliph to be really hard to take out at times, particularly due to the miracle effect from his weapon. If you could give him Mystic Boost 3 in his B slot and as a Sacred Steel, he becomes almost impossible to take out. For fodder, he can pass down Attack Speed Clash 4 and Lull Speed Defense 3. There's no unit with Attack Speed Clash 3 yet except for Brave Seliph, so it may be inefficient to inherit skills from him just now. As with Brave Tiki, it may be wise to wait before foddering him. As for art, it's fantastic. The annual Brave unit from Wada Sachiko fails to disappoint. Seliph fits in his father's attire, and it's okay, but it was a little jarring to see at first, though it ended up growing on me. I give him 5 stars, the pinnacle of sword cavalry units. Last but not least is Brave Female Byleth. She is a colorless tome flying unit. She received 20,855 votes, the second most in the women's division, and the 4th most overall in Choose Your Legend 6. She has a glass cannon stat line with high attack and speed and low defense and resistance. Her weapon is Inner Wellspring, which gives her special cooldown count -1, and if she's within 2 spaces of an ally, she gains the null follow-up status and essentially a times pulse 3 effect. Additionally, if she initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally, she gains +5 to all stats, and if she has a special that triggers before or during combat, it gives her minus cooldown count -1 after combat. So essentially, Byleth is really good at ramping into her special, which is convenient because she happens to have a unique special, Divine Pulse. When it triggers, she boosts her damage by 25% of her speed. Then, after she has triggered the special, she reduces the next damage she receives that round by 75%, and then her next attack deals 20% of her speed as damage. Not only does this help her deal loads of damage, but the damage reduction helps out with her survivability. It's also worth noting that this damage reduction is not cancelled out by the usual damage reduction nullification effects, like Deadeye or Lethality. A very powerful and annoying special to deal with. Brave Byleth introduced a new B skill into the game, Speed Preempt 3. It inflicts -4 speed on the foe, and if she's against a ranged foe and she's faster than them, she can counterattack first. This synergizes really well with her weapon and special, as it allows her to hit first with the special, then reduce a bunch of damage, and then hit back hard again. All in all, she's the ultimate ranged unit counter. If you would like to fodder her, she offers Attack Speed Catch 4, Speed Preempt 3, and Speed Resistance Hold. Speed Preempt 3 is great on fast range nukes. One that comes to mind is Guinevere. You can inherit it along with either Attack Speed Catch 4 or Speed Resistance Hold if you already have their prerequisites. In terms of art, I found that I like it a lot more than I thought I would. She's drawn by Fujisaka Kimihiko, whose art I generally like a lot, with an exception being OG Dimitri. She's in the Sothis Regalia outfit from the Three Houses DLC expansion pass, and the look fits her well. I particularly like her special art, which shows the crest of flames and Byleth looking all divine and transcendent. I give her 5 stars, a great counter to almost every ranged unit. And that about does it. Brave Heroes are some of the game's most hyped up units, and competition can be extremely fierce. I predict that next year there will be a few engaged units like Alir vying for top positions. Maybe some other top contenders like Male Byleth, Bernadetta, and Soren will make the cut soon, but who knows. I hope you enjoyed going over all the Brave Heroes with me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.